You're listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmeyer, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick. You're a pretty legendary director.
Oh, I am.
Yes, I know. Really, you've got some substantial credits. You hate that title. I know when I threw that at you last night.
I get up in the morning and I kiss my ring. It's right here.
Yeah, it's like the Pope.
Yeah.
No, I mean during the Q&A you were correcting us that you like to refer to yourself as a voice director, which is a different art form altogether, correct?
There is interesting. I become acquainted with voice directors in a British context. The person who works in Shakespeare is there's a voice director who corrects them on their language and their use of the language, aside from the person who stages the performance. I'd never heard of that before.
I was going to say about that. I quoted Shakespeare too last night. When you're in doubt during a Q&A or something, just quote Shakespeare because no one dares contradict you on the genius of
film. No, you intimidate the hell out of them.
I think I managed to get both Shakespeare and Kim Jong-il in the same paragraph.
Absolutely. That was from top to bottom.
I had a big thing in my head when we talked backstage when I said, "Can I freelance this?" You go, "Yeah, you should." I had a whole tirade planned, but we started late. I didn't want to totally set you back. I thought we better get to what the reason people are here.
Right.
We better get to it. I want to ask you, Mr. Burr, how did you come to hiring this guy to be Zartan when you were doing G.I. Joe? Did you hire him, or was he already on the cast with Leonard Nimoy?
I thought you might ask that question. I was at Hanna-Barbera, and I had good friends, and Michelli's was right down the street. And at the end of work, we always wanted to get a little relief, liquid relief. And this gentleman over here on my right was singing there. And somebody called my attention to the fact that he was an actor as well. And can you fill in the blank from there? That's where I
was working with the LA Connection, and we were doing improvision, and we were doing an old. We were dubbing in an Ed Wood movie called Bride of the Monster.
Oh, I love that you were doing that. That's hilarious.
And so what we came up with was we made it a James Bond movie. And so we made the lead character James Bond. So I was doing a Sean Connery. So I was, doing the best Sean Connery I possibly could as this guy. And so I was telling the story to Wally and PJ and Richard, and we were all laughing at the bar. And his eyes lit up, and he said, "I can't find a voice for this character." And then he says, "Do you want to audition?" And I said, "Yes." And so he says to me, "Here's the guy. Here's who he is." And he explains him to me. And I go home and I read Shakespeare and I read Clockwork Orange and
all the things Zartan needs to function.
And I put these things together and I came in and I auditioned and he nodded his head and he said, "I can work with you." And and I got the job.
That's not my voice. Now cut it out.
Is that how easy it was? You just basically let him have one audition and made the decision?
We're going back 27 years
right
here. So accuracy is not something I'm going to really bite into.
Don't worry, it's all fiction here anyway. One of the things before we get to your epic role in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Zach.
Okay. This is fun. I just want to say
this.
Yes. Yeah, I've never done sitting around with mics on booms and pop screens in front of me and earphones.
It's awesome.
I've done it in a booth working with actors on a show, but this is a different context, so it's fun. I just want to say that.
Hey, thank you. I'll take the compliment. You both worked with a friend of mine who's done this show, played the assassin in 3 Days of the Condor, Hank Garrett.
Yes,
great guy.
Yes.
Great guy.
I remember him, his huge unlimbering. What is he, about 7?
Yeah, he used to be a pro wrestler or something. He was.
And he came in, and I apologized to him for not using him more effectively. I had cast him, and it turned out there was 3 lines or something like that. I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
The guy with this amount of talent didn't have a greater opportunity in a show, which would be pretty successful at the time. Yeah, I remember him sitting there saying he was just so nice, and now he's a huge star.
Yeah, he's been around. We should have actually. I don't know exactly what his whereabouts are, so I should have reached out to him about the Tuxedo Man venture last night because he would have loved it. Yeah. Did you believe this performance this guy put on last night?
Oh, yeah.
What about those women screaming his name? I mean, how much do you have to pay to get people to do that in a live theater nowadays? What's the going rate? What do you think Zach put out for that?
You mean the checks he wrote?
Yeah.
To get them in there?
To get that kind of reaction. The I Love You, in particular, how much do you think that cost, Wally? How much do you think I Love You costs a performer?
I don't know. There's a scale figure for it, but none of us are working for scale anymore.
No.
Very true.
You know, it's interesting. There was a weird kind of dichotomy because you, as the director of Transformers, the animated series, met Mark Ryan, our co-host here, who's Bumblebee in the Michael Bay Transformers.
Yeah, you finally straightened that out. I thought I was forgetting somebody had been in one of my things, and no, he's in the live action thing working with Michael Bay.
Yeah. He was like Jetfire. He was multiple Transformers. But no, we weren't trying to pull one over on you. I just thought it was kind of an interesting history of the Hasbro toy franchise turned cartoon, etc. to have you both standing
absolutely. there. Absolutely. And Zartan is, I think, Arcee, who's Sue Blue. You remember?
Right.
And there are several voices that get constantly somebody says, tell me about working with. And Zartan is one of them. Yeah. And your voice is extremely distinctive. And they all kind of meld together to me now, because all I was working on was story. But your voice is mentioned as what a distinctive. Somebody last night said you had such a unique voice. And I'm not putting you down at all. It's just that back then, all I thought of was how do I get the show done, and I wasn't thinking about.
Was this the same girls that I Love You that asked this question about your distinct voice? Are these people paid? I'm just
may
wondering.
have been. I don't know. Came out of the blue. But it reminded me of the few people who do get mentioned all the time and saying, hey, oh, you did that? Do you remember working with? And so on. And you were one of them.
Well, yeah. That's very kind. Thank you very much.
That was good reaction to it, man. It was a lot of fun to hear people after the show talk to you about the show and development of the show. And that's challenging, man. Emotional work that's nostalgic, it's hard. You know, and there was something in it for everyone that everyone could connect with, I thought. You know, I didn't know what to make out of it. I knew it was good, and I had seen clips, and everyone loved it, and what I seen was great. But when I sat there for the whole performance, then you kind of grasp that, hey, this is a reflection of many of us in entertainment who – I have that feeling, too, sometimes where things that, you know, you connect to when you were younger are gone. You know, and I have that a lot now, I think, as a father and a, you know, guy. You know, look around, and a lot of these places are gone. And then right. when I talked to Mark, it was very emotional briefly. I mean, he was getting hammered with Crutchley, of course, post-show. But
when Nick turns around and wheels on the kid and says, you know, no place to take kids anymore. it's you know, it's those things that we remember that we're so, you know, that we're so in love with as children and or as adults that it's just gone. That's never going to happen. It's not going to come that way again.
I've got a one-man play for you to embrace next, and Wally, you can direct it. Let's take the episode of G.I. Joe where Zartan fronts a rock band and take that to the Whitefire Theater. Let's take that.
Man. Don't remind him of that. Yeah, it's called Cold Slither.
That's the title of the episode?
See, that's got hit all over it. The Whitefire Theater would love to put that on
Whitefire Theater presents Cold Slither.
Do you know what's really comically tragic about that is people see that on the marquee, and they're all going to stop and go, what is Cold Slither? We've got to inquire about Cold Slither. And it's Zach Hoffman as Zartan, directed by Wally.
Very good.
One-man show, round two.
I deny any connection with that whatsoever.
You know what you said earlier about kids, you know, like the places that you went don't exist anymore. Don't you think that even if they did, kids aren't kids like they were?
Right.
They wouldn't embrace it anyway.
No.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be a maturation process that's so fast for kids. Nowadays, they have to catch up, so they have to chase everything to be on time, culturally relevant. Kids now aren't allowed to be kids. I mean, I wore my sister's shirts when I was a kid, you know, because we were so poor. Actually, this is my sister's dress. If you look under, I'm wearing a full dress, but it's strange. It's like it's changed.
What's the laser tag?
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, like that's like foreign to me, but I think that there's a generation, like people in their 20s,
right,
maybe to 30. That's what they played.
Right.
They couldn't wait to get in there.
Well, kids nowadays, their life is in a little 5-inch by 3-inch box that they stare at. Their friendship is there. Their entertainment is there. Like when you talk about social network, it isn't like a social network outside of reality. That's the only social network a lot of kids have. It's that, where there's almost an anonymity to their existence in reality.
You know what pisses me off? I can't understand how to even get on Facebook.
You're listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmeyer. right here on LA Talk Radio.